A warm welcome to TV Africa News and thank you for always joining us. This is Africa Today. My name is Najima Luima, but first are the headlines. Teachers, learners need psychosocial support before reopening of schools, says Mutekanga. Small and medium enterprises urged to take up insurance against terrorism. Abdallah Hamdok, freed from house arrest, signs new power-sharing deal. And in sports, Kiplimo sets new half-marathon record and enters athletics nobility in Lisbon. A warm welcome once again. Now the news in detail. The Assistant Commissioner in charge of private schools and institutions of higher learning, George Mutekanga, has said teachers, learners and parents need psychosocial support ahead of the reopening of schools come January 2022. Mutekanga made the remarks at the launch of the Vine Toolbox by the Acts Fund, a non-governmental organization. We have more. The toolbox comprises 3 books that talk about the teachers, parents and learners in and out of COVID-19 as the nation prepares to resume schools in January. Acts Fund said that it is running a rehabilitation campaign for teachers, parents and learners ahead of the reopening, and they will create programs for children to address anxiety as the sudden change in their routine might affect them. Since March 2020, when the government closed all educational institutions following the outbreak of COVID-19, many teachers, learners and parents have silently been going through several psychosocial challenges ranging from anxiety about the future and economic uncertainty. Now, as the government plans to reopen all schools by January 2022, Mutekanga said that his ministry has decided to engage the private educational institutions to receive their proposals and see how they can support them to safely reopen. The Director, Education and Social Services at Kampala Capital City Authority, Juliet Namudunambi, said that the idea of thinking about mental health before the reopening of schools is very important, since many learners, teachers and parents have been greatly affected by the pandemic. The Forum for Democratic Change has condemned the killing of suspected criminals by security agencies without being tried in courts of law. This follows various killings of suspected terrorists by security operatives in the country. Nalugo has more.
Addressing journalists at their party headquarters in Najjanankumbi, the party spokesperson Ibrahim Semjunganda said killing suspects, who are moreover handcuffed, shows lack of competence among police officers.
Because these raids, you have seen them on TV, they are carried out by more than 20 policemen, and he is so incompetent that they can't even run after the suspect. Is that the police that we have in Uganda? Because even if a suspect is running, that policemen we have today and military men cannot run after. Then why do they do these tests when they are being recruited? And if you can't run, you will not be recruited.
According to Semuju, killing suspects before being tried in courts of law creates suspicion as to whether they were guilty in the first place, therefore called for an inquiry into the murder of suspected criminals.
Killing them creates suspicion, and I saw him struggling. The public thinks Chirevu was innocent. Museveni said, no, he was not. You can only prove that by going through a process, not by hanging and killing a suspect.
Meanwhile, FDC urged President Yoweri Museveni to dialogue with the Allied Democratic Forces ADF, a rebel group claimed to be behind various terrorist attacks that have been carried out in the country.
So we need to eliminate those conditions. Probably we may need to speak to those that we think are terrorists. That's what the Americans have done. Speaking to Taliban. People who are on the American watch list, we are the ones with them in meetings in Doha. And I don't know why they did not arrest them. Because they are on the American watch list, but we are on the same table with the Americans talking. If there are those who are driven in terrorism, wanting to achieve political, economic, those we can deal with.
Semju also called on the general public to be extra vigilant about any terrorist threats for their own safety. Nalgo Muyingo, Africa Today.
The Federation of Small and Medium Enterprises has asked small and medium-sized enterprises to take up insurance cover against terrorism amidst the growing threat of terror attacks in the country. The advice follows 2 explosions that took place in Kampala last week, where 7 people were killed and over 30 injured, leaving business in the affected places at risk. Kachanchu reports.
Speaking to journalists yesterday in Kampala, John Walugembe, the Federation of Small and Medium Enterprises Executive Director, said such terrorist attacks affect the economy that has been on the road to recovery from the negative impacts of COVID-19. He explained that it has increased uncertainty, fear and nervousness which scares away potential investors, adding that this is made worse by the terror alerts and travel advisories by the Western governments. He said that they want to encourage all small and medium-sized enterprises to take out insurance cover, including government putting in place the funds since the government cannot do everything. Walugembe asked insurance companies to be speedy in ensuring that they pay business owners that have been genuinely affected by some of these unfortunate events and refrain from coming up with unnecessary excuses. Small and medium businesses play an important role in fostering innovation, wealth and creating jobs. At least more than 2.5 million Ugandans are employed by small and medium businesses, accounting for approximately 90% of the entire private sector.
Let's take a very quick short break. We will be right back. Welcome back. You're still watching TV Africa News, The Right to Know. Sudanese top General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan signed on Sunday a deal with Prime Minister Abdallah Hamdok to restore the transition to civilian rule nearly a month after a military coup. The 14-point deal signed in the presidential palace in Khartoum provides for the reinstatement of Hamdok as prime minister and the release of civilian leaders.
Hamdok had been under armed guard since General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan declared on October 25th a state of emergency and ousted the government, a move that appended a 2-year transition to civilian rule and sparked international condemnation. An official said that the house arrest of Prime Minister Abdallah Hamdok has been lifted and the forces guarding his house have withdrawn. The move came after mediators earlier on Sunday announced that the military had reached a deal to reinstate Hamdok as premier. The House of Hamdok, a British-educated economist who has worked for the United Nations and African organizations, has been a key demand of international community. The power grab triggered a wave of mass street protests in which 40 demonstrators have been killed according to medical sources. But as news of the development broke, hundreds of protesters again rallied against the military and the ensuing crackdown according to witnesses. The main civilian bloc, which spearheaded the anti-Bashir protests and signed a 2019 power-sharing deal with the military, has rejected Sunday's deal. The mainstream faction of the Forces for Freedom and Change, in a statement, say that they affirmed their clear and previously declared position that there is no negotiation, no partnership, no legitimacy for the coup. Protesters gathered in downtown Khartoum as well as in the eastern state of Kassala and the northern city of Atbara, according to witnesses.
Moving on, Ethiopia on Saturday hailed the return of precious artifacts looted by British soldiers more than 150 years ago after a long campaign for their reinstitution. The collection recovered from Britain, Belgium and the Netherlands includes a ceremonial crown, an imperial shield, a set of silver embossed horn drinking cups, a handwritten prayer book, crosses and a necklace. The treasures were unwrapped before the media at Ethiopia's National Museum on Saturday, more than 2 months after they were formally handed over at a ceremony in London in September. Most of the items were plundered by the British Army after it defeated Emperor Theodosius II in the Battle of Magdala in 1868 in what was then Abyssinia. Ethiopia said it was the largest such repatriation of artifacts to the country, with its ambassador to Britain, Tefele Melese, describing it as of huge significance. Calls have long been mounting in Africa for Western countries to return their colonial spoils, with many prized national treasures held abroad in museums or sometimes private collections. Earlier this month, the West African state of Benin welcomed back nearly 30 royal treasures seized during France's rule more than 130 years ago. The Ethiopian government is still fighting for Britain to return other stolen artifacts, including sacred wooden and stone tablets or tablets, which represent the Ark of the Covenant. The tablets are housed in the British Museum in London, which has a vast trove of foreign treasures but have never been put on public display. Ethiopia is also seeking the remains of Theodosius' son, Prince Alemayehu, who was taken to Britain after the emperor committed suicide following his battlefield defeat. Tourism Minister Nasise Chali said that a variety of artifacts which are a legacy of their culture and values were looted during the battle and taken out of the country. South Africa's last white president during apartheid, F.W. de Klerk, has been laid to rest. De Klerk was laid to rest in a private funeral service on Sunday. It was relatively quiet outside the family home, with only friends and family in attendance.
A convoy of 2 vehicles, one with the former president's wife, Elita Georgiades, made its way to the Durbansville Memorial Park in Cape Town. De Klerk's death on the 11th of November intensified an ongoing debate among South Africans over his role as president during the apartheid era. After his death, his foundation published a video in which he apologized for crimes against other ethnic groups during decades of white minority rule in South Africa. He had previously refused to apologize, which prompted backlash as recently as last year when he said he did not believe apartheid was a crime against humanity. On the other hand, he is reported to have angered right-wing Afrikaners who viewed him as a traitor to their causes of white supremacy and nationalism by leading the process that ended apartheid.
2 Chinese nationals and a Congolese official were sentenced to 10 years in prison over the procurement of Chinese women as prostitutes in the Democratic Republic of Congo, their lawyer said on Saturday.
Speaking to the media, Nicky Bayo said that his clients Yi Jingpeng and Lil Bim were sentenced the night of Thursday to Friday to 10 years and 3 months in prison for procurement involving Chinese women nationals and using fake documents. The lawyers said that a Congolese foreign minister civil servant was also sentenced to 10 years in prison for having delivered courtesy visas without the authority to do so, adding that the 8 Chinese women on an irregular stay were ordered to pay $1,000 each. In his summation, the prosecutor said the women received regular wages and accused the 2 convicted Chinese nationals of organizing the sexual exploitation of young Chinese women in several cities. One of the acquitted women said she received $500 a month as a waitress. With a prostitution procurement trial rare in the Democratic Republic of Congo, the case had drawn the attention of the local media and comments on social networks.
Let's once again take a very quick short break. We will be right back. Welcome back. You're still watching TV Africa News, The Right to Know. In our business news today, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken promised new investments in Senegal on Saturday, presenting them as a bonus for democracy in this country known for its stability during the last leg of his African tour.
Mr. Blinken said on Saturday in the Senegalese capital that Africa can have a wide range of partnership offers while rivalries between the United States and China are crescendoing against the backdrop of increasing trade links between African countries and the Asian giant. During his visit to Senegal, Mr. Blinken signed billion-dollar agreements with U.S. companies, including a technology contract for public safety services and a project to improve traffic with better roads. He also visited the Pasteur Institute in Dakar, where he promised to help Africans make their own vaccines. In a speech in Nigeria on Friday, Blinken said Africans should not have to choose between their partners, a sentiment shared by Senegalese Foreign Minister Aissata Tall Sell. Senegal has for many years been one of the most stable African countries with successful transitions of power. But tensions have arisen between President Macky Sall and his opposition, including riots in March following the arrest of an opponent rarely seen in the country in years. Blinken said that he had, during the previous stage in Nigeria, referred to the January 6th attack by supporters of Donald Trump, then outgoing president, against the Capitol in Washington in order to reverse the result of the elections that brought Joe Biden to the White House. Blinken said that Senegalese President Macky Sall, who hosted him on Saturday at a luncheon in Dakar, has shown that he is a strong leader for democracy.
In our health news today, often discriminated against, attacked, and even sacrificed in dubious witchcraft rituals in some African countries, albinos also face the threat of toxic skin cancers. But a clinic in the Republic of the Congo is fighting to improve treatment, change perceptions, and save lives, having provided free health care to 460 albinos of all ages so far.
Albinism, a rare genetic disease that is hereditary and non-contagious, causes an insufficient production of melanin and the partial or complete absence of the pigment in the skin, hair, and eyes. It is still widely misunderstood socially and medically. Although it exists throughout the world, albinism is more widespread in sub-Saharan Africa, with World Health Organization estimates varying between 1 case per 5,000 people and 1 per 15,000. The clinical opening in 2013 belongs to the Johnny Canso Association for Albinos, which has been running on the unprecedented campaign to test for and treat skin cancers since January. John Kansongamwana, an albino philanthropist who heads the association, said skin cancer is the leading cause of death among the minorities. According to the United Nations, in some countries, a majority of albinos die from skin cancer between the age of 30 and 40. African sufferers of the condition are often unable to afford sunglasses or effective sun cream. 4 Russian doctors and another from the neighboring Democratic Republic of Congo are now involved in the campaign through partnerships to train the clinic's local doctors and provide extra care. A 19-year-old Rain Belunga, who waits in the capital Brazzaville to be treated for clutches that have affected her skin since childhood, said that an albino is a human being like any other.
In our sports news today, Jacob Kiplimo stamped his mark as the fastest man in the world in the half marathon with a splendid run at the 30th EDP Lisbon half marathon in Portugal on Sunday afternoon. The Olympic 10,000 meter bronze medalist sliced 1 second off Kibiwot Kandi's world record of 57 minutes 32 seconds that was set in December 2020, finishing the race at 57 minutes 31 seconds. Kachanchu reports.
Kiplimo ran a perfect race leading from start to finish and finished well clear of the rest of the field to bag his most prolific race with a check of 100,000 euros. The 21-year-old, who came second at the event in 2019, 6 seconds behind the Kandi, broke the field after 3 kilometers, controlling the race from there on, passing the 5-kilometer mark in 13 minutes and 40 seconds. He then crossed 10 kilometers in 27 minutes and 5 seconds and 15 kilometers in 40 minutes and 27 minutes as he cruised to astonishingly finish almost a half a mile and more than 2 minutes ahead of everyone else. Ethiopia's Essa Husseidini Mohammed and Gaba Beata Didibaba finished second and third, stopping the clock at 59 minutes and 39 seconds, while there was other 6 athletes who finished below the hour mark. Kenya's Moses Tanui was the first runner in history of the 13.1 mile race to break the 1 hour barriers in 1993, when he clocked at 59 minutes and 47 minutes. At 59 minutes and 47 seconds in Milan. Haile Gebrselassie upped the pace, running below 59 minutes in Tempe in 2006 with 58 minutes and 55 seconds. 4 years later, Eritrean Hassanei Tadesse further sliced the world record to 58 minutes and 23 seconds in Lisbon. Tadesse's record would stand for 8 years before Abraham Kipton ran 58 minutes and 18 seconds in Valencia in 2018 to start a run of consistent improvements to the world record time.
That was the news. Thank you for always keeping it TV Africa. Please do stay tuned. More programming coming your way.